Hello guys, I have the Frosty Planet Pack DLC beta update for you. Let's start! They added the Frosty Planet Pack DLC to the public testing branch of Oxygen Not Included. From today onward, depending on when I post this, you can access it for about 3 weeks before they will use the gathered data to decide on the pricing and official release date. Just remember that everything I present in this video is subject to change, and I also might be missing the point on some of these. You might be thinking the new DLC only affects those that buy it, but if I understood it correctly from the update notes, a lot of changes do aim to add new challenges and improvements, as well as a new core mechanic to the main game, the base game, which is where the first part of the video consists of everything important even to the base game and spaced out player, and the second part of the video showcases the Frosty Planet Pack exclusive stuff. If you start a game with the beta enabled, you will be greeted by this window here. The first thing I notice in the new starting screen is that you have a switch to activate and deactivate the spaced out DLC. In the planet selection screen you have a completely new tab called Scramble DLCs, where you obviously can choose your DLCs and then disable or enable some of the features inherent to said DLC pack. So let's see what happens if we do not activate the Frosty Planet Pack and just start the game. With this we can check the changes to the base game without all the new stuff from the paid DLC. For example, we do not have the new trade here in the duplicants. They revisited the duplicant temperature mechanics. For example, hypothermia and hyperthermia diseases have been removed. Instead, duplicants are now more vulnerable to chilly surroundings and toasty surrounding debuffs at temperatures outside of their comfort range. What is a comfort range, you may ask? Let's check out the new overlays. This here is the classic overlay, but you can also switch to relative temperature with this nice slider here, which is basically everything that we ever wanted for the temperature overlay, and the thermal tolerance. If I, for example, hover over this area here, which is a green temperature range, then it shows that it is a comfort zone, at least for our lovely HP Siegel here. This here, for example, is a body heat loss zone. As you can see, Nazgul isn't really happy about this, and this here is a body heat retention zone. For Chris here, for example, who also is not very happy about the heat. If we click on the duplicants, starting with Chris is in a toasty surrounding, giving a stress modification of 10% per cycle, stamina minus 50% per cycle, and an athletic loss of 5. You can see the current environmental change in DTUs per second. This duplicant cannot let off enough heat to stay cool and may be over insulated for this area. Now if we click on Nazgul, who is in a cold area, as shown before, Nazgul is in chilly surroundings, giving 10% stress per cycle, a stamina loss of 50% per cycle, and an athletic loss of 5. What we can also see is unrested because of a cold bedroom, giving another 20% stamina reduction per cycle and immunity minus 5% per cycle, which I guess is the immunity to sicknesses and diseases. Chris here, on the other hand, does not have one of these debuffs in the 50 degrees range that they are at the moment. So cold, bad for sleeping, warm apparently doesn't matter, and optimal temperatures, no debuff. If a duplicant is in the optimal temperature range, in the comfort zone, there are no debuffs of such sort. So what is the duplicant's comfort range, you might ask? The update notes state that it is approximately 0 degrees Celsius to 45 degrees Celsius in a standard oxygen condition. I couldn't find these temperatures though when I checked out the database and so on. But if you hover over the body temperature, you can see a healthy duplicant's body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius with a certain change per second shown to you in joules. The environmental change in DTUs, the duplicant as well, and the homeostasis also in DTUs. I'm honestly not really sure what to do with the homeostasis value here. You can see it here in the body temperature as well as in the calories. You already know that duplicants can get scalded when it is too hot, but there is now also the cold scalding damage when exposed to extremely cold external temperatures, approximately minus 90 degrees Celsius. So this here is very cold, super coolant. As you can see, ECX is being damaged by the cold, as well as Adrian being damaged by the hot temperatures. You can see Adrian sweating and ECX freezing. Of course I rescued both of them. In the top left corner you can see the scalding, and let's take Nazgul for a second. Nazgul, let's take HP Siegel for a second. You can also see the cold scold message here in the top left. Pressing on it will bring you to the duplicant that's being cold scolded. I just watched something funny, so let's show you, go away. Let's show you this again. First off, freeze the duplicant. and then have the duplicant delivered to a triage code. Now keep an eye on the messages that pop up. Picked up 1000 grams of easy eggs. What the heck? As you have already seen, a high body heat loss will now disturb a sleeping duplicant. Check here to the left. The freezing duplicants cannot sleep through the night. This is also shown by the status effect of unrested because of the cold bedroom. The obviously sweating duplicants have no issue sleeping through the night. Duplicants will now seek warming stations to remove the chilly surrounding status effect. What is a warming station, you might ask? Well, besides the new buildings that I will show you in the second part of the video, these here, for example, are warming stations, as you can also see by the heat producing new icon. So this is the icon of everything that produces heat and this of everything that produces cold. Here you can see the heat source and the heatsink symbol. Our rich Philibob is now frost resistant. This duplicant recently visited a warming station and is temporarily immune to cold related stress and athletic damage. It is immune to soggy feet as well, which is pretty amazing. Soggy feet is kinda annoying. The area in which it applies the heating effect is shown when you click on the building. At least that is what I think this range here is about. Now let's turn this around. What if a duplicant is in toasty surroundings? Then the duplicant will search buildings that can cool them. In this case, a cooling station. And water coolers now function as cooling stations. Now if you click on the duplicant, we can see that they gained the heat resistant status effect. This duplicant recently visited a cooling station and is temporarily immune to heat related stress and athletic damage. Time remaining around 100 seconds. Another thing that I've noticed when choosing duplicants from a printer, their interest points seem to be quite high on some of them. So this here is a flatulent narcoleptic duplicant, which is not very good, also destructive, but they do have 15 excavation. That's a very high value. Not sure if this is new or I just didn't notice, but let's keep an eye on this. A few clothing choices have been changed. For example, there's no more cool vest, it has been removed from the game. The warm sweater has been replaced by the warm coat. First off, I really like the look of the warm coat. The insulation thickness of a snazzy suit is just 0.25 centimeters and of a warm coat is 0.8 centimeters. Once produced, we can compare the two. The snazzy suit goes to Nazgul and the warm coat goes to EasyX. Now let's compare. I looked for a few minutes but couldn't find which values exactly represent the new coat. I think they could make it a little bit easier to find what the warm coat actually does. I mean, we can all imagine what it does, but the exact values would be helpful. We also have the jet suits, lead suits and Atmos suits. The update notes only talk about the Atmos suits, that they now provide immunity to chilly surroundings and toasty surroundings effects. But let's test this with all three kinds of these suits here. And now I need two duplicants with each suit. So, left side is cold, right side is warm. Let's check this. They look unhappy? Let's wait a little bit. Nothing so far. Let's make this a little bit colder and this a little bit hotter. This looks to me like all the Atmos suits now provide immunity to chilly surroundings and toasty surroundings. If you are using the dev mode, there's now also the dev heater under utilities, which puts out 100 kilodTUs per second. Those have been the new features for all duplicants in all versions. Now let's go to the critters' new features in all versions. They rebalanced all critter comfort and livable temperature ranges. Critter with an internal temperature outside of their comfort range suffer a happiness penalty. Critter now show thought bubbles when they feel too cold or too warm. Critters that experience an external temperature that is outside of the livable range will gradually take damage, like these two here. If we click on the molten lava and check out their livable range, it is between 50 degrees Celsius and 300 degrees Celsius, meaning this here is way too cold and it will gradually die. The same goes for every other critter that is outside of their livable range. For example, this gulpfish right here. And because they rebalanced every single critter in the base game and changed their comfort or livable ranges or rebalanced them, I will try to summarize most of them in groups. All the slugs have a livable range from -100 up to +100 degrees Celsius. The Cuddle Pip has a livable range of -30 degrees Celsius up to 100 degrees Celsius. The regular Pip has the same livable range. A Gassy Moo has a livable range from -200 to +200. The Beta Hive itself has no livable range. The Beta has a livable range from -100 up to 10 and the B-Tiny as well, as you can see by the damage that they are taking right now. Dracos have a livable range from -30 up to +100, whereas the Morb has a livable range of 0 to +200. And now to all the Shinebugs. All the Shinebugs have a livable range of -100 up to +100. Slicksters have a livable range from 0 to +200, whereas the long hair Slicksters have a livable range of -50 to 100, and the Molten Slicksters have a livable range from +50 to 300. All the Shovels have a livable range from -200 up to +500 degrees Celsius. All the Puffs have a livable range from -50 up to +100. All the Hedges have a livable range from -30 up to +100. A Grub has a livable range from -30 up to 100, and a Sweetle the same. Oak Shells, Sunny Shells and regular Poke Shells have a livable range from -50 up to +100. A Tropical Pacu has a livable range from +10 to +100. A Gulpfish has a livable range from -50 up to 25, and a regular Pacu has a livable range from -20 up to 100. But the fact that a critter can now take damage if the temperature is not in their livable range can be abused, of course. Here, for example, we do have too much critter to the left, which will get picked up and transported here to the right. Adrian, what the heck are you doing? Okay, Adrian is dropping a critter, like intended. And then, once the critter roams around, the trap will activate and let the critter fall inside of our infinite food storage. And because the critter will perish sooner or later, the produce that they will drop will automatically land inside of your infinite food storage. Just like that. The tiny problem could just be, Chris, could you not? As you've seen right now, that a critter is eating the meat. So be sure to only do that to critter that don't eat your food. But I think you get my point. Evolution chambers and infinite food storages are basically the same now. At least for critter that die at those temperatures. Now that we have all those violated critters, let me show you the next thing that I added. The grooming station now restores the critter's health. Brand new critter, just like that. Speaking of the stations, if we go to the shearing station, for example, the shearing station is now built out of metal ore, just like the grooming station. The shearing station is no longer built out of raw minerals. Critter that eat plants directly can now eat plants planted in a planter box, like this Draco here, for example. They also added a few more descriptive things how this is written down. For example, the pincher pepper plant that can be eaten by the Draco don't uses up units anymore, but percentage of growth per cycle, which is better to understand. As for the mealwood that we had the Draco eat, for example, the Draco ate 25% of the growth per cycle. You can see the growth percentage here in the square brackets. Critter will now also face the food that they eat and not just look into a random direction. The game will now also remember which way the critter were facing when loading a save. Not sure how this is relevant though, but that probably solves some issues. Critters can now spawn at a comfortable internal temperature. And because of that, I guess we do have the same phenomenon that we had with the Gulpfish and the Pacu, the tropical Pacu before. If you spawn too many, the heat they produce will warm up the water that are inside, reducing the amount of regular Pacus and Gulpfish that will spawn in the process. Because this tropical Pacu, if we click on it, has an internal temperature of 54.5 degrees Celsius at the moment. Now if we spawn in some Gulpfish, they spawn with a cold temperature, maybe even freezing the water in the process in the long run. And now all the other critter could do the same to their environment, if I understand that correctly. For example, hence I did a test with a whole lot of shovels in the hope that they might melt the environment. So in a nutshell, the shovels did not have enough power to completely melt their surrounding environment, but the environment had enough power to cool down our shovels. By the way, Clay also changed the shovel mechanics a while ago, and I didn't even notice it or find it in any of the change notes, but as you can see, shovels can now traverse even large pockets of water or other liquids, even magma. So some of the designs that you've seen for the shovels with the liquid as a barrier do not work anymore, so yeah. You have already seen the temperature overlay improvements, but let me show you again. This here is the regular overlay, this here is the relative temperature, which we can move to the left and to the right to make the scale more sensitive and show us the values a little bit better. We now have the thermal tolerance, showing the body heat loss and the body heat retention, which makes it easy to differentiate which area would need an atmosuit, a warm sweater, or maybe something to cool the duplicants down. And we do have the state change, showing stable areas in green, low energy state changes in blue, for example the supercoolant right here, or the atmosphere area next to the V-swords, and it shows high energy state changes like the polluted ice, the ice here to the right, or the snowy and polluted ice areas, as well as the liquid chlorine areas here. You can also see the aforementioned new symbols. A V-sword, for example, is a heat sink, whereas most machinery is a heat source. And now to the changes and improvements for all oxygen not included versions regarding the plants. Harvest ready plants, like this pincher pepper plant for example, you can see it by the harvest ready, will no longer change their animation to wilted, even if the growth requirements are no longer met. And here we do have another harvest ready plant. Tree branches harvest ready status item, the tooltip now mentions branch instead of plant. So if you click on an arbor tree branch and hover over the harvest ready, it now tells you that this branch can be harvested instead of this plant. Speaking of the arbor tree, they changed lumber to wood. So this here is now called wood instead of lumber. Speaking about wood, ladder, cot, outhouse and drywall can now also be built out of wood. There's also the transition to, the applications and the produced by database entry, which have been added for a few other things as well. To the reed fibers, for example, reed fibers now also display the application, the polluted water that you need, combined with the thimble reed giving you the reed fiber, or as a food for the cuddle pip giving you dirt, or as a food for the pip giving you dirt as well. And I added the same thing for the balm lily flower. So let's check this out. Applications, food for the Draco giving you phosphorite. I also added shearing station information. Not in the shearing station itself though. You have to find the eligible critter. So if you click on the Draco for example, under applications, the shearing station will give you reed fiber. Or again, if you're in the database index of wood, it tells you that the shearing station in combination with the flocks gives you wood, 300 kilograms of it. This is one of the new critter from the DLC by the way. We will talk about that later. As you might already know, but shearing a delector wool will give you tonic root. This yellow stuff here, and then check out the database entry, you will see that there is no entry, but apparently they added an image and application infos to the tonic root page, which, well, let's check that. There's the tonic root page, not connected to the tonic root by the way, and it shows the application that tonic root in combination with 4 nosh beans and 50 seconds in the gas range will give you 5000 kilocalories of curried beans. The update notes state that plants in the database now show their product produced in mass per cycle or calories per cycle. So 10 kg of dirt plus 1 mealwood plant will give you 200 kilocalories per cycle of meal lice. I think this is quite helpful. I don't see the mass per cycle here, so I guess it depends on the plant. So let's check this. Pincher pepper plant for example produces 500 grams per cycle, since it doesn't produce anything that can be eaten by duplicants, hence doesn't have a calorie value. We talked about the new duplicant features in all versions, and now we can talk about the changes and improvements in all versions also regarding the duplicants. Sleeping duplicants for example will now tolerate up to 500 lux before being disturbed by the brightness. As you can see right here, the brightness here is 900 lux, Dupe is being disturbed. 900, Dupe is being disturbed because this here is the tile that I actually checked the light level on. This Dupe here on the right is a light level of 600 that would disturb the duplicant, but the light level that is measured is the left one, so under 500, 450, this duplicant is sleeping like a baby. Which directly brings us to the next point. They added the very dim illumination threshold between pitch black and dim. So 600 lux is dim and 450 lux is very dim. And then it is pitch black. Which also means they removed the word dark and replaced it with pitch black. Which goes from pitch black to very dim to well lit. Duplicants who fall asleep due to their stamina reaching 0 will now show an unscheduled nap status item. You can see the red sleeping bubble here, and to the right you can see the exhausted status item, telling us that a duplicant passed out from fatigue. Also, and that is the reason why I put the duplicants in here, they will now prefer to go to their designated beds instead of dropping on the floor if they have the option to. As you can see, only work schedules, and now we just wait for one of them to drop. This is a narcoleptic dupe. This one doesn't count. Okay, as you could see just right now, the duplicants had no bedtime assigned here. But still, every single duplicant went into their bed when they needed to take a nap. So can we just not assign bedtime in the future? Maybe. The duplicants also no longer do the gross food emote after eating food with germs on it, which is very helpful because I also did misinterpret that as the dupe don't actually liking the food that they were eating, even if it was good food, like this berry sludge right here. The handy and unconstructive trait are now mutually exclusive, which makes sense. There are now also 4 new elements: the cinnabar element, the nectar element, the tallow element, and mercury. Mercury has been in the game before, but it is now no longer deactivated. Let's start with the cinnabar one. If cinnabar is heated up, it will produce mercury gas. Then we do have nectar. The nectar can be used as an equivalent to petroleum in the plastic production. If nectar is heated up, we do get steam and sucrose. Adding sucrose to the base game, by the way. And if we freeze it, we get a vacuum, ice and sucrose as well. Tallow, if heated up, will produce crude oil. The most likely form that you will see the aforementioned tallow in is this one. Looks like a stick of butter, and it is also used in a similar fashion. Applications are using it in the deep fryer. The tallow, by the way, is produced by the spigot seal. By the spigot seal, I have no clue. Database not found. And mercury, when heated up, will make liquid mercury, and heated up some more, even more, will make mercury gas, which is the same that you can get from the cinnabar. It looks like cinnabar's main function is to produce some mercury, as is also shown in the application here. The supercomputer, the water cooler and electrolyzer storages are now insulated, preventing the contents from freezing in cold environments, which funny enough makes this thing more viable. Other buildings also got changed or improved. For example, ice statues. This ice block here already has a giant decor radius. Check this out, of 18 × 10. And it also probably goes down pretty far. So I would guess 18 × 18, 18 × 17 tiles. It has a positive value of +35. And after it has been turned to a masterpiece, let's check this again, a positive value of 45 in the same giant radius. Storage bins, normal liquid pipes, normal gas pipes, radiant gas pipes and the wash basin can now be built from raw metals like copper or the new cinnabar. At the moment this does not apply to insulated liquid pipes, radiant liquid pipes or insulated gas pipes. The liquid vents now show the animated drips in the color of the liquid that they are outputting, which is super cool. I mean, look at this. It is now possible to specify which food a rehydrator can rehydrate in the side screen. I only have dried surf and turf and dried tofu, but let's only choose one of these here. You can see here to the left that if you choose another one that I did not store, it will drop its contents and they will deliver the correct one. The rehydrated food also no longer ignores the consumable restrictions that you set. If duplicants are very hungry and need to eat more than one dried food package from the storage, they can now fetch up to maximum of 10, which is also applied to eggs. So duplicants can now pull more than one dried food packet from the storage. Because you can now choose what food you want to rehydrate, they also added a copy settings button to the rehydrator. So you can just copy it over to the next one. They also implemented a lot of fixes for the base game and for spaced out only. One notable, for example, is that the rover and the biobots now actually stop working when their battery runs out. You can check out the rest of the fixes in the official document linked down below or in the description. And now to the changes and improvements in the UI. For example, buildings melting will now trigger a notification in the UI right now, and we now will get the notification of building melted. As you can obviously see here. Materials such as lead are now deprioritized compared to other materials. If we, for example, want to build one of these gas shutoffs, which can be built from different materials, copper, lead, iron or steel in our case, because that are the materials that we have, and we have copper lying around and lead lying around, it should always choose the material that is not lead, which is just a blessing. Checking back at our lovely rich Philly Bob, every single gas shutoff here has been built from copper and not from lead, which is super nice. Let's talk about storage bins. The header of the storage bins has been changed from all materials to all standard. So if we check all standard materials, it excludes stuff that is non-standard, like clothing, atmosuits, snazzy suits, warm coats and so on, and critter eggs. So you have to choose critter eggs if you actually want to store them, because the game knows that they will break and create raw egg in the process. The same thing applies to the smart storage bin and the automatic dispenser. The conveyor loader has been updated as well, with the same all standard setting or non-standard settings. Sometimes the research screen has been annoying. If we go to research and type something in here, then leave the research tab and go back to the research tab, normally the filter has still been active. Now the filter resets with each closing and opening. There's a new button in the details screen. If we click on the meal lice here, for example, see this tiny button here? This will now automatically bring you to the resource screen, enabling you to quickly find out how much of that resource you have. For example, could you not steal it, Rich Philly Bob? For example, our coal right here. Press the button and figure out that we have 20.7 tons of coal. Nice. We no longer have to open up the resource tab, go to see all, type in coal to figure the same information out this way. Just click on it and click on this. They revisited the planter box side screen to show more options at once. This is the planter box, clicking on it, this here's the side screen. This just looks the same to me, but vertical instead of horizontal. Guys, how often has it happened to you that you were building an aqua tuner and a duplicant ran out of the material that you actually wanted to build the aqua tuner from? We want to build this out of steel, but we do not have enough steel to build two from that. So the duplicant will grab the copper to build the second one. Let's see how this works out after this update. The update notes say the following. They added some text feedback when build material is automatically changed due to insufficient resources. So I'm not sure where the text feedback was in this. So if we go to the steel aqua tuner and place it down, I don't see any text feedback anywhere. Steel, placing it down. So where's the text feedback now? Okay, let's try this again, but this time with igneous rock. Let's check this. We do have 200 kilograms of igneous rock here. Let's build some pipes out of igneous rock. We technically can only build 2, which means it changed the materials for all the other pipes. Where is my warning now? No warning. It also did not change the material. So and I quote, added some text feedback when build material is automatically changed due to insufficient resources. I don't see this working, but I could also be doing this wrong. If you have a world with geodes activated, sometimes neutronium geodes could spawn. That has now been fixed from the word generation. There have also been a lot of changes to modding, but since I don't know how that will affect any of the modders, it's probably up to you to read on that in the change notes. And that have been all the changes affecting the base game players and the spaced out DLC players. Now let's change to the new Frosty Planet Pack DLC. You can play the exclusive DLC stuff in a few different ways. You can start the base game and choose the Frosty Planet Pack under the standard planets, or with the new feature choose to scramble in the new DLC stuff in any of the other planets, even the lab. Another method would be starting the spaced out DLC, then choosing either the classic asteroids and then select the Frosty Planet DLC planet, or go to the spaced out clusters and then select the new DLC planet, or scramble in the new DLC stuff in any of the other larger or tinier DLC cluster. And this here is the size of the Frosty Planet Pack DLC on the base game, which is a huge planet. This here is the Frosty Planet Pack DLC on the cluster of the spaced out DLC. This is the spaced out classic cluster with the Frozen Planet Pack DLC sprinkled in. And this is the planet that I did the following testing on, which is the spaced out classic cluster, and I chose the Frozen Planet DLC planet. New features in the Frosty Planet Pack so far are: we do have a new duplicant called Freya with a new trait, the Frostproof trait, which makes them immune to chilly surroundings. This trait can now be found in other duplicants as well, as you can see in our Ruby here, Frostproof. Okay, let's start in order. There should be a new starting asteroid option called Ceres. Our asteroid here is called differently. It's called Polarini. We do have 3 new biomes. The new Ice Cave starting biome presents an immediate thermal regulation and resource harvesting challenge according to the update notes, because all the elements are frozen solid. We do start with a bit of wood though, 20 tons to be exact. The wood is at minus 20 degrees Celsius almost, and we're at minus 30, minus 32, around minus 20 to minus 40 in this biome. I spawned in a few more duplicants that can actually freeze. As you can see, the duplicants will immediately start getting hurt in the starting biome. That is just rude. The cool pool biome, this one here, and this one here as well, and the nectar biome. This one here, and this one here. The Ice Cave biome houses a new critter, the Phlox, this tiny little fellow here. A new resource plant, the Pike Apple Bush, this one here. Another new resource plant, the Alveo Vera, this one here. The frozen planet equivalent of the Muckroot, which is this Sherberry plant here. The Idola flower, which is a decor plant, this little tree here. And the already mentioned Cinnabar, this metal ore here, which can be processed to create mercury. Switching over to the cool pool biome, where we can find iron, ice, sucrose and a little bit of igneous rock, as well as these nice pools of ethanol. In the cool pool biome there's a new critter called the Behemoth. Not a mammoth, but a behemoth. You can also see the new decor item called the Lumen Quartz, which is this one, or even prettier right here in the middle. This biome also houses a new, could you not? This biome also houses a new resource plant, the Plume Squash plant, this one here. Switching over to the nectar biome, we can see that it mostly consists out of snow, ice, a lot of mercury, metal ore, and these tiny little creatures here. These are called the Spigot seals, if you pronounce it like that. We also have a new resource plant, the Bonbon Gourd, which is also the reason for the new nectar. Besides all the new stuff on the planet, we also do have new meteor showers. For example, an icy nectar meteor shower. Not sure what this is, but it could be one of those. They also added an Aurora Borealis visual to the background of the Ceres worlds, though ours is called Polarini, again. There's new music, Ice Planet, and a Ceres themed day and night stinger. There are also new buildings and new tiles. We do have two new types of tiles, snow tiles and wood tiles, which do look pretty nice. In contrast to every other tile in the game, the snow tile is only built from 30 kilograms of material, snow to be exact. And the wooden tile, the wood tile is built from 200 kilograms of wood. Both have an insulating and slow heating effect. The new building, the wood heater, can of course be powered by wood and heat up our lovely duplicants. The wooden heater can be found under utility and be built with just 5 regular metal ore or steel. Its range is 9 times 4 tiles, 36 tiles in summary. The wood heater requires 25 grams of wood per second and duplicant operation to put in wood every now and then, and produces 20 kilodTUs of heat. It outputs a lot of carbon dioxide per second, produces a little bit of light at a low light level, very dim, and even very dim right next to it. This here is the heat that it can produce. Take a look at the lovely Hans Martin here. Once they warmed up right next to the wooden heater, they will gain the status effect of frost resistant for 0.2 cycles, making them immune to the cold conditions here. You might have already noticed that there are no liquid water pockets, meaning no electrolyzer, no mush bars, and no advanced research. Which is why the DLC adds the following building, the ice liquefier. This little tea kettle here. It doesn't need any power, it needs to be supplied with ice and with wood. It produces a little bit of heat and has a melting rate of 20 kilograms of ice per second, melting 100 kilograms of ice into 100 kilograms of cold 25 degrees Celsius water. The water is then stored inside of the building itself, as well as the ice and the wood. The building then requires emptying. Classic. Such a classic. Besides the new wood tile, we also gained the wood block. You can find that under the decor, probably furniture. Yeah, here the wood block itself counts as an incomplete artwork and has a 9 × 9 tiles, 81 tiles size, with a positive value of +4 for the wood block itself. A master artworker can then change it to a +16. In the same range. Here you can see a few more designs. I already mentioned that mush bars could be a problem because of the apparent lack of liquid water. But what I did not consider is that the resource dirt is also quite sparse in the starting biome. Which is why we do have the new deep fryer building, which annoyingly can only be used in a kitchen. So we have to make this room a kitchen first. Now it is a kitchen and now we can use it to cook. We do have 4 different recipes here. In hindsight, I think it is pretty clear that this is more for late game food or mid game food than it is for early food. Because we need stuff that is not in the starting biome, and we need tallow for each and every single one of these. Tallow is this fatty butter stuff, and you can pretty much only get that from the Spy God seal. Okay, now to all the new plants, critters and foods. Starting here in the top left. This here is the sherberry plant. When you harvest it, you will get the sherberry, the equivalent to the muckroot, with only 800 kilocalories and a grizzly quality. But it never spoils. You can feed it to hedges. The second new plant, the pike apple bush, which when harvested will drop a pike apple. It will drop 800 kilocalories of a pike apple, as you've just seen. If you take the pike apple, put it in an electric grill, you can make some pike apple skewers out of it, needing 800 kilocalories to give you 1200 kilocalories, with a poor quality but a morale boost of +1. The pike apple skewer spoils after 8 cycles. The new plume squash plant will drop a plume squash once ripe, as you can see down here. You need to harvest it. The plume squash that will be dropped has 4000 kilocalories, and in combination with some tallow and table salt in the deep fryer can make you some squash fries. Changing the 4000 kilocalorie plume squash plus 1 kilogram tallow and a little bit of table salt to 5200 kilocalorie squash fries in a standard quality, giving you a morale boost of +4. The squash fries boil after 4 cycles. Another new food is the pemmican. It can be made from meat in combination with tallow inside of the microbe musher. Pemmican turns 1600 kilocalories of meat and 1 kilogram of tallow to 2800 kilocalorie of pemmican with a standard quality and a morale bonus of +4. Pemmican never spoils, by the way. You can use Paco filet and tallow inside of the deep fryer to make some fish tacos. 1000 kilocalorie of Paco and 2.5 kilogram of tallow make 2200 kilocalorie of fish taco with a good quality, a morale +8, and because it is an aquatic diet, it will give you radiation resistance. The fish taco has a spoil time of 4 cycles. You can also combine meat and tallow inside of the deep fryer to make a deep fried steak, turning 1600 kilocalorie of meat and 2 kg of tallow to 2800 kilocalorie of deep fried steak with a good quality, morale bonus +8 and a spoil time of 4 cycles. And lastly, you can use raw shellfish and tallow inside of the deep fryer to make shellfish tempura. Raw shellfish, 1000 kilocalories, 2.5 kg of tallow makes 2200 kilocalorie of shellfish tempura with a good quality, a morale boost of +8 and because of the aquatic diet, radiation resistance. The shellfish tempura also spoils after 4 cycles. So if you either use the new plume squash plant or the already harvested plume squash and feed it to the behemoth, you will get the behemoth patty, which is, you can see what this is. You can work this in the rock crusher and turn it into phosphorite and clay. You will get more of this resource if you let the behemoth feed on the plant, 9% growth per cycle, than from the plume squash. If you take the behemoth and shear it, you will get reed fiber, 5 units to be exact. Next up is the phlox. The phlox can eat the pike apple bush or the pike apple. If it eats from the bush, it eats 40% per cycle, or 320 kilocalories per cycle of the pike apple, giving you only 400 grams of dirt. If you let it eat from the bush, you will get 1.2 kilogram. You can also shear the phlox, which will give you wood. Shearing the phlox will give you 300 kilograms of wood. Of course, you can also eat it. Another new plant is the bonbon gourd, which needs light and, if domesticated, snow to grow. It will produce nectar. This nectar can be eaten by this little spy god seal directly from the flowers though. And it will produce ethanol in the process. This little seal will produce 40 kilograms per cycle if it eats 40 kilograms per cycle of stored nectar. You can see the stored nectar by clicking on the plant and no, you cannot see it. Not sure. If you take that seal now and well, add a duplicate and attack the poor little seal, then you will get tallow. Just 50 kilograms of it. And that is how you get the tallow for all the other recipes here to the right. Poor little seal. And with that, we also finished the deep fryer. Next up are the new points of interest. This here, for example, is called the research portal, which obviously can be used to unlock research. Come on, Nazgul, you can do it. I love the animation. What the heck? Okay, let's check this out. Research discovered. Eureka! We deciphered the research portal's final transmission. New buildings have become available. The wood heater, the ice liquefier and a wood tile. One file was labeled "Open this first." New database entry unlocked. Welcome to Sarah's encryption level none. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Everything is under control. Your VIP package includes an exclusive set of bespoke survival supporting technology, a comprehensive tenant's handbook with everything you need to maintain homeostasis in your new world. Missing attachment. When life gets you down, popular wisdom says to look up. That is incorrect. Please direct your attention downwards. This will ensure a pleasant stretch for tense cervical muscles. It will also help you locate the color-coded lines painted on the ground, directing you to the sustainably heated comfort quarters down below. And remember, survival is success. Gravitas accepts no liability for death, disability, personal injury or emotional or psychological damage that may occur during your residency. Please consult your booking agent for details. And with this we unlocked a few of the new buildings. For example, the wood heater, which can be found under colony development. The wood block can be found under decor. The wood tile can be found under decor home luxury as well. And the ice liquefier can be found under gases. For some reason. Would have expected this under liquids. Other new points of interest are the Frosty Planet starting base, which includes the wood heater, the coat rack and a wood pile. But they are not as interesting as the new Sarah's showroom. I guess that's this one here. Yeah, showroom. This is super nice. Not sure if you can take this and place it somewhere else. I doubt it. That's a nice bed. And then there's also the geothermal heat pump. That's this thing here, which kinda is connected to some of the geo vents that are found around the place. They look like this here. So we do have a geo vent here. If you click on it, it says it's under construction. So I'm guessing that they only will reveal this once they actually make it viable, the DLC. We got 2 of those, which probably can be activated by the geothermal heat pump. Not sure. I put in a duplicate and now we can see what happens if we scan the hand of the duplicate. Come on. Nothing with the hand scanner. Nazgul the dupe. Check out whatever this here is. Nothing of interest. There's a giant databank. What is in the offsite locker? Rummage it, Nazgul. Come on. More databanks. A snazzy suit. Oh, that's cool. That's a locker inside of the wall. This one is under construction as well, so there will be a surprise once the DLC hits. I spawned in the different geothermal vents for you so you can take a look at how they would look in their pockets. By the way, this point of interest is called the Cozy Cabin. And the research unlock always spawns with 2 Alveo Vera, at least if you go to the dev mode and check this out. And that's all the new stuff that you will get, the new features, the changes from the Frosty Planet Pack DLC that we know of so far. Because some of the things obviously will have to be unveiled once it hits. This here is part of the stuff that is exclusive to the DLC, as well as some new buildings, a little bit of decor, more buildings, but mostly new mechanics that are included in the Frosty Planet Pack DLC, as well as the base game and the Spaced Out DLC. So all of you better suit up in one of these warm new coats, so the duplicants have a better time in your bases. Love you guys and Luma out. Ha, you almost got me. I know that some of you in the comments probably already yelled at me for not pressing the blue button for the new blueprints. So here they are. Was not worth it. And now, before going to sleep, why not listen to the soft tunes of the Luma Plays Let's Play? Just let it run in the background and have a nice 9.5 hours sleep. Love you guys and Luma out.